Today is May the 13th, Friday the 13th, as it were. And maybe it's an apt time for me, your friendly neighborhood watchman, to delve into other police-related issues that have come to the fore in recent weeks. During the last 3 or 4 weeks or a month, there has been continuous debate and discussion on the various chat groups that I'm a member of with respect to two major issues: the ever-expanding murder rate in Trinidad and Tobago, particularly murders by guns, and also the apparent failure of police officers to perform their duties in a competent and efficient and professional manner that is seen in their interaction with members of the population. And let me preface this by saying that Trinidad and Tobago is fast approaching becoming a totally lawless society. I know some people criticize me for saying so, but I'm judging this not only by the murder rate and by the rate of domestic violence and other forms of misconduct, but I'm judging by the people's response when you see them on the videos that they like to take, up in the police faces, only shouting, "You're too wicked, you're too wicked, you're too wicked," whilst at the same time attempting to release prisoners from custody or to prevent police officers from conducting and carrying out investigations and proper arrest and detention of persons. Now, the first issue, the murder rate, I must admit, requires a multifaceted response: legal, law enforcement, socio-economic, and even psychological. And there are a lot of experts in the country in those various fields. I don't know if I consider myself to be an expert, but I consider myself to be quite knowledgeable on issues of law and law enforcement, particularly as it relates to the police service, because that's where my focus and my expertise has been throughout my adult life. And I'm not going to stray too much into the other areas. I'll leave that for the psychologists and sociologists and economists and others to deal with. But I will split my issues into two things. One, dealing with professionalism or the lack of professionalism coming from our police officers, and as can be seen from the utterances and behavior of those at the top, which in my opinion influences those at the bottom. And then I will deal with what ought to be our responses to the expanding murder rate. We are fast becoming the murder capital of the Caribbean. And very soon, if it's not addressed, if it's not arrested, it will become of whole the northern hemisphere. I'm telling you, in spite of the gang violence, in spite of the surplus of guns in the United States and their gung-ho attitude towards guns, that is their culture and their nature and their history. Trinidad and Tobago, in contrast, has never had to deal with such issues. And we are now a victim of the narco wars, a victim of the political issues that leads to revolutions and uprisings and misunderstandings between nations that generally leads to people collecting firearms and other forms of deadly weapons and using it against their brother man. And it is leaking over into Trinidad. Not so much Tobago. And later I'll reiterate my point with respect to making Tobago a safe zone. If the government of Trinidad and Tobago or the opposition in Trinidad and Tobago, both of whom have a responsibility to address these matters, and I am forgetting all these small parties and all these small individuals who want to come up and say that they want to take power. They can't do anything in Trinidad and Tobago without the support of both economic, financial, and even political support of the two major parties, the PNM and the UNC. And they will wait. I'm afraid that they might wait until their own children, their own siblings, their relatives and friends start getting murdered on the streets in broad daylight before they will run up and say, oh, let's stop it. We have to stop it now. While the gangs are killing each other, while black hen chicken killing black hen chicken, and Indian chickens killing Indian chickens, because that's the reality now. There's no longer a division in the country with respect to the kind of crimes that are taking place and the people who are perpetrating it. The names are now interchangeable because the society has become mixed. Mixed to the extent where everything has become mixed. Not only your race, not only your ethnicity, not only language, but crime, debauchery, and all the other evils that address a society. Trinidadians and Tobagonians now speak with one voice in terms of their attitude. I will still make a case for Tobago being an exception, except for those Tobagonians who came to Trinidad and have been poisoned by the same muddy water. But that's another story for another time. Let me say at this juncture that I am pleased and I was encouraged by the discussions taking place on the chat groups. I know there have been disagreements and people have been sniping at each other for different opinions. I have kept quiet because I wanted to hear other people's opinions, not just mine. Lots of police officers with lots of varied experiences and knowledge and understanding of the society, especially those who are in Trinidad now as opposed to me who had been away for a number of years. It is important to hear their voices, and I encourage everyone to say something. Even on your chat group, say it. Let us have the discussion. Let us have the debate. Let us pass words and pass issues and see if we can find solutions. That is very important and key at this time. And retirees in particular, you have an important stake in the society. I know people like to say everything in the past seems to be better than what is happening now, and people hark back to the past. That is only natural and normal. It is true that now we have more technology, we have more resources in many instances, and we have better ways to find and solve crimes. But it's not happening. So there must be a reason for that not happening. And we must address that reason and see what worked in the past, what we can incorporate with what we now know in the present, and to see how we can shape it in the future. Remember that when DNA came out in the early 90s, nobody knew that it would be such a major breakthrough in solving crime. But police forces over the world were maintaining their protocols that they had since the 60s and the 70s of collecting and preserving evidence, including blood and other bodily fluid evidence and other types of evidence, which in hindsight proved to be pivotal to solving many, many, many cold cases, because people at that time didn't know that DNA will come to catch them 20 years later or 40 years later. So the methodology that police officers have been using from time immemorial will continue to work if we just give it a modern twist and a modern understanding in order for us to address crimes. So therefore, the past must come together with the present in order to influence the future. And this is my prelude, my opening statement before I launch into what I really want to say with respect to the two issues. One, gun violence in the country, the murders, including domestic murders. And two, dealing with police professionalism, what I would like to call the big gun syndrome that we seem to be suffering from, and we need to be addressed, and we need to address it in light of a more violent, whilst at the same time enlightened society who are prepared to buck the police, fight the police, object to the police, whilst trying to maintain their human rights. It's a strange place we find ourselves in. And the government and the opposition both must come together to address the problems in our society. I know a lot of them. I would like to say most of them. And I would like to think they are all good people. But I think they are operating now sometimes in bad faith, because politics only makes them see power and not see their society, which is the important part. The power that they wield is intended to assist their society in overcoming its problems and charting a better tomorrow, a better future. Let's start at this time and let's see what we can do.